Hi, this is Mitch Gitelman. I'm co-founder of Harebrained Schemes, and I'm here today to talk about BattleTech coming to PC next year. Oh, and I'm on I Know Your Game. BattleTech's been around for over 30 years, which is kind of amazing. It started as a tabletop miniatures game, which is still being played today, and that was my first introduction to it. But since then, it's been a series of video games, from the Mech Warrior games Inside the Cockpit to Mech Commander, a real-time strategy game, Crescent Hawk's Inception, which was a turn-based game. It's been cockpits that you could get into and play 3D multiplayer. I think it was the first 3D multiplayer game ever, up to 16 players. That was a ton of fun. That's where I met my partner, Jordan Weissman, who created BattleTech. Besides that, it's been, an Xbox game. Mech Assault was the very first game on Xbox Live, multiplayer console game. But beyond just video games and board games, there's over 200 novels in the BattleTech universe, dozens and dozens of source books written by a variety of talented people. So it's really a shared universe. And it was even a Saturday morning cartoon. And that was a lot of fun too. So it's been around a long time, and that's one of the reasons why we're excited about it, because this is the first turn-based BattleTech game that's been made in 25 years. So we're really excited to give that to our to BattleTech fans, who've been waiting anxiously for it. Detail, depth. It's sort of like chess with giant robots. You really want to use your mechs in combination, setting up your next move and making sure that you're using each one to their maximum potential. And so there's really a lot to it. There's facing really matters. Mechs have 11 different armor locations on them, and so when you've penetrated the armor, you want to maintain that facing so you can do damage to the internal structure, and that's where the real juicy bits inside the mech are, those components that you saw when you played the game. When you blow those, you can destroy the enemy's chance to dissipate heat, which is very important. You can destroy their weapons, or best yet for me is when you hit their ammo and cause the armor to just blow off and things like that. You can make the mechs limp and fall over. So that is the important thing. There's also heat. Mech warriors are strapped to two giant walking fusion engines, because the 31st century is very dangerous, I guess. I don't know why they do that. But so heat is very important. They generate a lot of heat. Walking, running, jumping, firing your weapons especially causes heat. So you have to manage heat very carefully in the game. Sometimes shutting off your weapons, even though you really want to fire them, because you saw that. Because if your heat gets too high, you can do damage to your own mech. Like just recently, I blew off my own arm. Oops.
It happens.
It happens to the best of us, or me. And beyond that, if you heat your mech up too much, it'll shut down right in the middle of combat, making you very vulnerable to the enemy, who can then choose a very specific location on the mech to target, and that will suck for you.
It would.
Yeah. The last thing is stability, because they're giant walking battle mechs. Walking things can fall down if they take too much concussive damage, or you gotta watch where they're standing if they're on rough ground. You don't want your mech to fall down, because your pilot will take damage, but also it'll leave you vulnerable to those called shots from the enemy, again, just like shutting down, and that's, again, very, very bad. in multiplayer or in our skirmish mode, it's 4 mechs on 4 mechs, or 3 or 2 or 1. You can, use all of the balancing C bills, what we call it. So you can bring in 4 mechs, and I can just bring in one big one. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend that at all, but you can do it. So that's in multiplayer and in single player skirmish mode. But in the campaign game, again, up to 4 mechs. But how many enemies you face, that's very much up to the individual mission that you'll be playing. And not only in the BattleTech game will you be facing enemy mechs, but you'll be facing enemy vehicles as well. Things that, missile carriers and things like that can fire indirect fire over mountains and things like that. So you can fight many, many enemies in one of these single player missions and hope it comes out okay, because it's a mercenary game, and what you're really trying to do is profit and through war. And so you travel around to different planets, taking mercenary jobs, negotiating your contract for salvage versus money versus reputation, and keeping your company afloat that way. You have to pay your mech warriors, you have to pay for repairs, you have to pay for new mechs, new weapons, refitting, all that kind of stuff you have to be very careful about. And not only that, you've got mech warriors that if they get hurt in the field, well, you have to put them in the medical bay so that they sit out. They might have to sit out a combat or two, and you might have to use one of your lesser mech warriors that you haven't trained quite as far, because that's one of the other things you do in the game. As your mech warriors gain an experience, they get new special abilities they can use in combat. And then the best part about being a mercenary commander is going into the mech bay and refitting one of your mechs, taking out all its weapons and putting in different weapons. And then you could actually take that mech into single player skirmish mode and test it out before you use it in the campaign. So that's a great use of single player skirmish. Being a mercenary is a big deal. But also there's a story campaign that goes throughout that. So as you're going around sort of in an open universe way, taking all these contracts from all these different employers, there's one woman, a queen named Kamera, and she has lost her throne in a brutal civil war with her uncle, and you're going to help her regain her throne by doing special operations for her. So there's a lot going on in this game. The game is coming out early next year. It'll be available on Steam and GOG and Humble stores. And it'll be on PC and Mac and Linux. The only last thing I can say is that if you still want to be a late backer and get into our beta, you can do that right now. Go to battletechgame.com.
Engaging start.